team. It's been really, really valued.
Thank you. Item 11.1 we've done. Item 12. Right. Finally, product stewardship.
All good to go? Cool. Tēnā koutou katoa no Cymru, Wales, Wakatupuna, kei whangaporawa taku kāinga I Nāianei, ko Team Leader Strategic Planning Waste Solutions ahau, he parakore te mahi, ko Sophine Brockbank ahau. Kia ora. Through the Chair, I will talk to this agenda item today on behalf of the Waste Solutions Department, but I'd like to extend my apologies from Parul Sood's General Manager, Waste Solutions, who is currently at a C40 Waste event and unable to be here today. The Ministry for the Environment is currently consulting on proposed priority products and priority product stewardship scheme guidelines. A product stewardship scheme shifts the main responsibility for recovery, recycling and disposal from local government to private industry, incorporating the cost of disposal into the product price. For example, a consumer may pay extra when they purchase a product, but be able to dispose of the product at the end of its useful life for free. Or a refundable deposit may be included in the price of a beverage, and this deposit returned when empty container is taken to a collection point. Such schemes ensure that the responsibility for end-of-life disposal shift from ratepayers to producers and consumers. The consultation document proposes introducing priority product stewardship schemes for 6 identified priority products, those being tyres, electrical products, agrochemicals, refrigerants, farm plastics and packaging. Auckland Council's Waste Management and Minimisation Plan 2018 recognises product stewardship as an important component of achieving our zero waste goal. It identifies advocacy for product stewardship as one of 9 key priority actions to be addressed by Auckland Council. Staff have developed a draft submission which is informed by feedback received by the Council through the consultation in March 2018 on the draft Waste Management and Minimisation Plan and the draft Long-Term Plan. The draft submission supports the scope of the 6 priority products identified and supports the proposed guidelines for scheme design proposed. The draft submission advocates for ongoing involvement from key stakeholders, including community organisations, local government and mana whenua, in order to ensure schemes that are equitable and appropriate for all. We have also taken the opportunity to advocate for including plastic and packaging from commercial sources, as well as paper and cardboard packaging as additional priority products. As of Monday this week, staff have received feedback from 8 local boards on the proposed priority products and product stewardship guidelines. Formal feedback was received from 3 boards, with informal feedback received from 5 boards. Staff expect this feedback will be formally approved by the various boards before the final submission due date on the 4th of October. A summary of the local board feedback has been distributed to you. There were some common themes across the local board submissions, including support for products being processed at local community recycling centres and through local community organisations working on waste minimisation, support for the use of container deposits or cashback schemes for beverage containers, support for the inclusion of mana whenua and Māori in the design of product stewardship schemes for priority product groups, concerns about the impacts of illegal dumping on their local communities, and a desire to see this addressed through product stewardship schemes. If approved by the Environment and Community Committee, staff propose to amend the draft regional submission to capture the local board's support for these key points, and I understand we've included that in our resolution points too. Some local boards also suggested that a number of other products be treated as priority products for product stewardships or addressed in another way. Some of these products are captured already by the product categories, and for others, a product stewardship scheme would not be considered the most effective way to manage this waste. Before I finish, I'd just like to make a comment on behalf of Waste Solutions. We would like to thank the Environment and Community Committee members for their support and robust discussion on waste-related items over the course of this term. We would also like to acknowledge Councillor House as the outgoing chair of the committee and wish her all the best on her future endeavours. Tino pai rawa atu tō mahi. We take the report, the draft submission and the summary of local board feedback as read and are happy to answer any questions that the members may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent report. So, questions? Are there any? Deputy Mayor?
And so, look, 100% support of this. Just a question, when you talk about the agricultural chemicals, there's already a traceability program in establishment there. Is the government looking at having something else or just augmenting that existing program?
So as I understand it, the current system is voluntary, so this would be making it mandatory. So it's building on the work that's already been done, but ensuring that it's covered across the whole remit of those chemicals.
So just for your information, industry standards it is mandatory, not by the government legislation, but by the industry-led standards. So if you want to comply to export standards, you have to do that.
Yeah, and I guess I'm meaning more the collection aspect. So at the moment, that take-back scheme, I think it's not mandatory across the board, so this would be making it a bit more formal.
Yeah, support the submission. There's just one question, and that's the potential conflict between product stewardship and a container deposit scheme. Product stewardship says you've got to take responsibility for taking the material back because the cost of it has already been paid in the purchase price. The container deposit scheme actually, however, creates an incentive to take the product back for recycling. So you wouldn't have it both. You wouldn't have both built-in cost to the drink containers and a container deposit scheme on top of that, would you? So what are we going? We're presumably going for a container deposit scheme as an alternative to product stewardship.
So through the chair, a container deposit scheme is one type of product stewardship approach. So we would be pushing for a container deposit scheme as we've outlined in our waste plan, but that is considered a version of product stewardship.
Okay, so you wouldn't have a double cost on it. No, that's good. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
No, that's really important. I think that people understand that. Any other questions, comments? No? You happy to move? Who would like to move the recommendation? Mr. Mayor, and seconded Deputy Mayor. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. And I think for anyone who might be debating with other people about why on earth we don't want to bring back the inorganic rubbish collection, this is part of the compelling case about why that is completely nuts. Thank you, as always, to our wonderful waste team. Item number 13 follows on from our discussion with Saffron today, and welcome team. It does make me chuckle. This is my last official meeting. This was one of the first things I ever chaired in 1993 when I chaired the Piha Karikari Water Issues Working Party, which started the pump outs. So you come full circle, talking shit at the beginning and talking shit at the other end. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't got a presentation, but I'll briefly summarise the journey to where we've got to today. In the annual budget last year, we consulted on the option for the removal of the legacy Waitakere Ranges septic tank pump out scheme. The septic tank pump out scheme is a council-run service that is paid for by a targeted rate from the residents who have a septic tank. It doesn't include residents in the area that have a modern on-site wastewater system. It's only for septic tanks and old-fashioned long drops. Approximately half of the on-site wastewater systems in the legacy Waitakere area. During the consultation, particularly from the Waitakere Ranges local board area, there was a very strong representation saying that they wanted to keep the pump out scheme and the pump out service. And so in June, we recommended to the committee that we maintain the pump out service through to the end of the current LTP. And so the pump out service will keep running for the next 2 years. However, we also said that we want to come back with options for revised service. One, the costs of delivering the service have increased. Two, the area of service we recommended to bring back to just the Waitakere Ranges local board area. The reason being, of course, the major other part is in Whenuapai, and that is currently under development and they're being reticulated. So they're going to shift from an on-site wastewater service to a reticulated service over the next, however many years. And the costs have increased because obviously when you reduce the number of people, the costs to the contractors go out. The charges for disposing the wastewater have increased at Rosedale, and there's a council overhead. Over the time of the on-site wastewater pump-out service, the costs have actually increased higher than the rate had increased, so there was a gap that had opened up, and currently the council absorbs about $100,000 per annum in costs for delivering the pump-out service. So in this report, we were seeking the committee's approval to go out to consult again this time on the revised service and the revised costs so that the service is self-funding. The status quo option, maintaining and absorbing not only the existing costs but the additional, staff have not recommended. However, I understand that that would be an option for consultation that we'd have to put forward. There are the two options that we've presented. One is that we just maintain a pump-out service only, and the option B was to do both a pump-out and also inspection of their entire wastewater system. Staff have recommended just option A, just a pump-out service on its own, and this is a bit more consistent with what every other on-site wastewater person has to do. The inspection requires a different skill set from a typical pump-out contractor. It needs someone like a trained drain layer as well, and so staff are quite uncertain about the additional contracting cost that would actually entail to deliver that service. And we also feel that it could, if the inspection fails to pick up deficiencies and things like that, it can introduce some risks and liabilities onto the council. And so finally, just to respond, we presented the options to the Waitakere Ranges Local Board, and they also feedback that they'd very much like to have the full service but kept at the existing rate, feeling that the subsidised service for Waitakere Ranges is warranted due to the unique environmental values of the Waitakere Ranges heritage area. So that's that in a nutshell. I've got my colleague Andrew Duncan here who can answer queries in relation to targeted rates and rating policy. And I'd probably have to acknowledge Elizabeth Johnson, who's actually done all the heavy lifting in terms of preparing the reports and all of the evidence, and she's really at the heart of pulling together the on-site wastewater scheme for the council.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. What a good team. Questions? Deputy Mayor.
So I asked a question to the presenter this morning. So when I get our septic tanks done, several of them down south, I pay for the suck out, and I also pay for a engineer or a drain layer, certified drain layer, to tell us that our effluent field is okay, or change this around and change that. We have to change one this year. That's all on me. I organise it with our neighbours and half the valley actually. About 20 tanks all go on one hit. The guy does it. We get a pretty good rate. What makes this area Waitakere so special?
So through the chair, that's probably why staff don't recommend the status quo. We believe that it creates an inequity across the region. So whilst we definitely acknowledge the views of the local board batting for their corner of the region, we see that it, creating that inequity will create a whole additional set of issues for us. There's roughly 4,000 people receiving a subsidy, if you like, and the 36,000 people who would not be receiving it, and where's the fairness? So that's probably the way that we perceive it.
You're happy to move? Yeah. Councillor Cooper?
So this will become a targeted rate through the local board, or will it just, sorry?
Are set by the governing body, and the consultation will be as part of the annual plan, because all rates must be consulted on as part of the consulting on an annual plan, and then the rate will be struck as part of the probably as part of the long-term plan because the current scheme runs for another couple of years.
It's just the clarification I needed because we thought it might be a local board targeted rate, but it will be just part of the rates for that area on the normal rates bill,
Yes.
as it's currently now.
Yes.
Okay.
It's clear. No other questions? So it's been moved. Which way round was it? Moved. Deputy Mayor, seconded. Right. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Cooper, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. And thank you, team, above and beyond the call of duty. May you not have to go to the Waitakere Rangers local board all the way from Franklin at all hours of day and night to discuss this again, Andrew. It's appreciated. Thank you, team. And I think sea change. Now we might have lost our sea change team, who I think might have given up on us. So we might just. I think he is. We'll just pass through to item 15, and thank you to, actually, I must say, Alan, thank you for your forbearance as we worked through this item. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, to yourself and Angela, who I think came up with a good way forward. So I'll just hand over to Alan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I trust the report was sufficiently explanatory, but this piece of land has been held for many years, initially by the Crown, but then it was transferred when the Reserves Act came in to Manukau City Council for a future road. It's held under the Reserves Act for a time when the urban spread occurs, and that has happened now with the advent of the Auckland Unitary Plan. Land that was rural has been rezoned as residential, and now the owner of that land wishes to develop, and so the process for converting the road reserve to a road is by resolution of the governing body, a committee of the governing body. And so that's what we're requesting today. Then it's a matter of legal services making an application for the Registrar General to dedicate the land as road. So it's quite a simple procedure. But if there's any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you. Did you want to comment, Bill?
I'm happy to move, Madam Chair. I'd like to acknowledge Alan for a very quick meeting with the chairman, person of the Franklin Local Board yesterday, Angela Full James and myself and Alan. We just made a slight operation to give the local board an opportunity to have a solid discussion with Alan about it in the very near future and then progress it. So thank you, Alan, for your time and forbearance with us.
That's my pleasure, and I'll step out and see the local board to consult a little bit further with them next week or the following week. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. So you happy to move that? Is there a second? No one's leaping out of the chair. Councillor Philippina, thank you. Good work. Good catch, guys. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Alan. Nice work. And we'll go back to our sea change agenda. Oh, on page 61. Welcome, Rebecca and Dave.
Greetings. Sorry for the slight delay in getting here, but
Perfect
we
timing.
didn't think the other one was going to be wrapped up so quickly. So,
We're pumping through it.
okay. So this I've got a presentation just to take you through the paper. Effectively, what this report is a update report for you, and it represents a collection of the 2 years of work by the Auckland Council Group as relates to what work program has been approved previously in 2017. And basically, this is the attempt here is to simply to overview the nature of that work. In attachment A, we've got about a 10-page spreadsheet which outlines the work of the Auckland Council Group to deliver on the Sea Change plan and the work program as agreed in 2017. So just a bit of history. Firstly, the Sea Change plan was released in December 2016. The Planning Committee first looked at it in May 2017 and sort of had a few resolutions in terms of what I wanted staff to go back and have a look at. The staff came back to the Environment Community Committee in September 2017, where the proposed work program was set out, and the committee at that time agreed to the proposed work program. There was also a resolution for the creation of the Auckland Council Sea Change Political Reference Group, which terms of reference were also approved at the committee meetings there. And the terms of reference, the two main bullet points I've got there talk to the nature of the work envisaged by that political reference group. You can see there the membership of the working group at that point. So the table attachment A lists about 10 pages of work that's sort of aligned to some of the key themes in the Sea Change document. And as you can see, there's a pretty significant amount of work across the council group to improve Hauraki Gulf outcomes. Lots of those activities are consistent with the main themes in the Sea Change plan, and then obviously we've had a level of acceleration of activity through the targeted rate initiatives in 2018. The Auckland Council Sea Change Political Reference Group has provided oversight. They had about 5 meetings since 2017 through to recently, about July 2019. And the intent of that reference group is to help with getting departments and CCOs to look at what initiatives they were undertaking and seeing how they could improve some of the outputs for the outcomes of the Gulf. So looking at what opportunities can be recognised as a result of that particular reference group's work. One of the key things to note, however, is that sea change is just one driver for the improved Hauraki Gulf outcomes, and it's quite of a key point in terms of where we're at the moment. And so there's a whole bunch of other things that Auckland Council Group and other parties are doing to deliver on Hauraki Gulf outcomes. And so really the last 2 years has been a bit of a reaction to looking at how we look at our work program against the Sea Change plan in the terms of the themes or the objectives. But really what we need to do is sort of reshape perhaps what the Hauraki Gulf political reference group should be focusing on going forward. And this is really the proposal today, is to looking at reshaping the terms of reference for the Hauraki Gulf, the Auckland Council Hauraki Gulf political reference group, to move away from just simply looking at the Sea Change plan as its main direction of travel, but also considering a broader range of initiatives that advance Hauraki Gulf outcomes. One of the other key things that we're looking to do is to expand the membership of the political reference group so that other than Planning Committee and Environment Community Committee members from the governing body also look at the Finance and Regulatory Committees and sort of get some membership from there, so you have a much more integrated approach across Planning, Environment, Community, Regulatory and Finance Committees. And this could be quite helpful going forward in terms of leading up to LTP 31. We've also got a member from IMSB on that group, and we've also got some local board members, one of which is from the islands, and the other 4 are from the mainland. The terms of reference ask that a review is done at this time, which is why we've brought this paper to committee partly. And what we're intending to do here is to extend the terms of reference for at least another year through to December 2020, which would allow the committee to take advantage of the further integration that needs to happen within Auckland Council Group, and also to start to recognise that there's some other things happening in the central government that could be quite usefully sort of have a relationship with in terms of what Auckland Council Political Reference Group, Hauraki Gulf Political Reference Group thinks about particular proposals coming out of central government. The reporting would remain the Environment and Community Committee as the parent committee or equivalent of the whole. And then there would be also the opportunity for the Auckland Council Hauraki Gulf Political Reference Group to report back to other committees as they see fit. Just in terms of membership, the colour in orange there on that slide just indicates the changes that are proposed. So basically the addition of the Regulatory and Finance Performance Committee representative. At the moment we have the Deputy Mayor, but that could be Deputy Mayor in brackets or Mayor. And then also we have the local board member from the islands who's not standing this time round, so I'll be looking to replace that particular individual from the local boards. Otherwise the membership is pretty much the same. So I think just in broad terms, this sort of indicates that there's a bit more work to be done with this. There's a lot more integration and opportunity that could be had by the Hauraki Gulf in terms of the Hauraki Gulf outcomes. We are not, as a council, delivering necessarily on our environmental obligations at a regional scale, and we kind of need to keep ensuring that all the activities we do, whether it's a urban development proposal, whether it's a community initiative in a local board or in a regional context, whether it's a rural or an urban issue, need to sort of start thinking about how those things link up. So there's a lot more focus on taking the opportunity with this particular reference group to try and continue to embed those sorts of ways of thinking going forward into the next year. That's it.
Thank you, Dave. It's a very timely reminder thinking about the next council and our regional council type responsibilities. You know, we look at all these pages and Rebecca's done an amazing job putting together everything that relates to the Hauraki Gulf and all of the work we're doing. But it is worrying that we still behave like a city council and forget that we're also a regional council. And I think next term we are really going to have to grapple with that, because this looks like we're doing a lot of stuff and it's easy to go, wow, aren't we doing a lot of stuff? We're not meeting our obligations, and I think that's the single biggest, Mr Mayor, whoever chairs this committee next time, you're going to have to get stuck in Councillor Philippaina and really remind people that we are a regional council. And thus endeth my lecture. Any comments? Deputy Mayor.
I said it this morning and I'll repeat it again, Dave, is that I see those three harbours as being an integral management piece all put together. They've all got different issues, but whether it's rural or urban pollutions, they are having the same detrimental effect. There might be more rural pollution, but there's probably more toxicity in the urban pollution. That's why we want to get rid of it. And we want to have things like mussel seeding as part of the general program to actually cure the water like it did 40 years ago before they were all pillaged, poached and dredged by Sanford. So we just need to move that forward, I think. I'll agree with you completely about next term we need to have something that's more encompassing, and maybe the statute of the Hauraki Gulf Forum slides into some sort of else different point. But look, your recommendation, I think I could start, David. This one, certainly for me, is in my focus for next term, having something that's more elevated and it'll tie in exactly with the work the government's trying to do with the three waters and the rural packages right now.
That's so good to hear, because it is so utterly critical. Councillor Philippaina.
Chair, I just want to comment on slide 5, Dave, and that is in regards to the membership and also the comment, Chair, that you made around our statutory obligations. Now, the membership, and I totally agree in regards to the increase, especially with the key committees, like you said, regulatory, possibly finance, because it reminds me of our debate we had around the targeted rate. And the environmental targeted rate, some of us, myself included, wanted the higher one, because that would have fulfilled our statutory obligations. But we settled as a committee, as a governing body, to go with the middle the middle range. So this one here is very similar. It's around our obligations around the statutory requirements with the Hauraki. So, having that increase, to both is having that increase is going to be beneficial for us moving forward. And I agree again, Chair, with your comment around us being regional, because we are. This is why we're in the situation we're in now. We're the largest in Australasia. So thank you. Well done.
I'm aware that when this started, Te Tai Tumu, Te Tai Pari, the catchment's quite massive. So in the context of today and Auckland City, Auckland Regional City, when I'm looking at things like this political reference group, are we just talking Auckland Regional City, or are we still talking the original catchment, including as far south as Matamata?
So through the chair, yes, this is just the Auckland Council response to Sea Change. We are working quite closely with our other agencies who are involved in the original proposal in terms of the broader Hauraki Golf Marine Park. So it's not, this is very much about saying Auckland Council has got a particular focus that it needs to get across the line. We're engaging, as we were last month, with the Hauraki Golf Forum and giving them an update as to what this council has been doing on behalf of the Auckland Council Political Reference Group. So the chair and deputy chair of this committee attended that particular hui. Yeah.
Just one last thing, more information for officers, recognising the document being is 2017. And a lot of dedicated commitment since then, but there's a bit of information I just want to leave with you, and that is the Supreme Court decision of Ngāi Tamaki versus the Minister of Conservation in relativity to the footprint of when we're thinking about the Department of Conservation and their authority within the Hauraki Gulf. Okay? I just encourage you to have a look at what, if any, effect on your thinking that may have, that you may not have been thinking about before. Kia ora.
Yeah, I read the original Tai Temu Tai Pari report, but I haven't been very well connected with it in the meantime. Can you answer three basic questions? What progress has the Gulf Forum made towards implementing the recommendations? Two, what's the major failure? What have the major failings been? And three, to what extent have those failings been the product of lack of resourcing going into it?
So the forum, I don't believe, has formally adopted the Sea Change plan. They have discussed it, and one of the issues, Mr Mayor, was that they had a bit of a conflation of issues between a governance review that they were calling at the same time with the production of the, which then preceded the Sea Change plan being finished. And whenever they talked about the Sea Change plan, they ultimately got sort of into a discussion about governance. And so Hauraki Gulf Forum has been quite in a tricky space in terms of making progress from their particular angle. Bearing in mind, I guess, that really it comes back to the constituent parties of the forum to actually take action. And so the forum has generally been a very limited role in terms of how it would implement any of this. The implementation was largely recognised by both the people involved with the plan production as well as the Hauraki Gulf Forum as being something that would be largely resting with the agencies, the key agencies, so DOC, MPI, Auckland Council, Waikato, and the district councils in Waikato.
So just following on from that, I mean, what progress has been made towards implementing the major recommendations of Sea Change? So
Auckland and Waikato have done by far the bulk of the heavy lifting to date. MPI and DOC obviously were leading right up to an election in 2017 in central government, so they weren't able to really articulate what they were doing. They've only recently put out a proposal in last November for the Ministerial Advisory Committee. There's been a second meeting of the Ministerial Advisory Committee only last week, so they're really only getting to the stage of sort of taking on board feedback from both the central government agencies for that Ministerial Advisory Committee, and they're not expected to report back to Minister Sage and Minister Nash for at least a year. And one of the things they'll be looking at is focusing largely on conservation and fisheries management, but they'll also be looking to do a bit of governance discussion. In terms of what our interest might be in terms of those discussions, I've indicated that the main issue for Auckland and Waikato, and particularly Auckland, is the growth issues as they impact on the environment. But there's a lot of work we can do as Auckland Council to ask the question of ourselves: how are we actually managing growth, and how are we actually better encompassing some of the environmental considerations that we need to do as a council with a high growth envelope?
Yeah, sorry, I won't persist too long on it, but maybe it's something that we can focus on again after the election. But, you know, with major issues, I recall siltation, marine reserves, greater protection around lifting the level of fish stocks. I mean, that's not something that Auckland can do or Waikato can do. Isn't that something that you've got to have a central government leadership on? I mean, basically, what I'm hearing, I guess, is that we haven't done much towards implementing any of those big recommendations.
So when it comes to the conservation, the fish stocks issues, those are central government responsibilities, not ours. We have, as a council, started to look quite closely at our strategic approach to sediment as a program of work. That's been a significant commitment by some of our staff to actually push that along over the last year. That picks up the key elements of sea change as well as all the other drivers for us wanting to focus on that issue in terms of just meeting our obligations under the RMA.
So well, we can do the things that we've discussed in this committee and about limiting the level of siltation from development and from our rural areas. But I mean, the Gulf, because of its size and its complexity, has to be seen as a whole. And I would have imagined that what you'd want is a central approach that then set out to each constituent body what their responsibilities are. But that hasn't come anywhere near happening.
No, and I think one of the things I'd say though is that with packages like the Essential Fresh Water package that's been announced by government in the last couple of days, that is asking our councils in Waikato and Auckland and also the district councils to actually think about things a bit more collectively. So the compulsion's not there, Mr Mayor, but I think the key point to note is that we are collaborating quite closely with our neighbours in terms of some of these drivers. But as you say, maybe that could be a stronger thing that we could look at.
I think those are critical questions, Mr Mayor, and if you have a look at this incredibly detailed plan that we've got with everything that we're doing, so much of it is integrated. The sediment in particular, I think, is a fantastic piece of work, and that's us taking the bit we're responsible for and taking hold of it and making change. But you're quite right in saying there are other parts of this that are not ours to solve, and that's where the big picture's needed. The other challenge, of course, is with, and it's so good having the Deputy Mayor across the package of water issues that's come out of central government, is there's a heck of a lot of expectation and no money. And in a funding constrained environment, how do you choose between fixing a road or taking a long-term view on supporting the harbour, building another community centre, or dealing with the long-term impacts of siltation in a remote area of the harbour? This is going to be a really big challenge for this next council. That's why, again, all of those people out there touting zero rates increase, the first thing to suffer will be the environment. There is no doubt in my mind. So don't go there, kids. Member Brown.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Look, I support everything the Mayor's just raised, but he's reminded me around why it is I've encouraged the comment I did. So within the decision, it's very clear that Section 4 of the Conservation Act is the primary legislation in this environment. So that's why I'm drawing it to your attention, because there were, in the High Court and the Appeal Court, Every other act was used against us, and the decision is very clear. At the end, the primacy act is Section 4 of the Conservation Act.
We'll take your word for it, Member Brown. Okay, all right. Mover and seconder for the recommendations. I'm happy to move. Councillor Filipaina will second. And I just want to add my huge respect and acknowledgement to our team who push away at this complexity day by day. Thank you, Dave, Rebecca and wider team. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you.